Hello and welcome to the 5-2 Diet Podcast. We're here to help you lose weight and feel great with intermittent fasting. I'm Kate Harrison from the 5-2dietbook.com. I lost 31 pounds, that's 14 kilograms on this way of life, and I've written 4 books about it. I run one of the biggest 5-2 groups on the web, and I still fast every single week. Fasting is easy, flexible and free. This podcast will help you 5-2. Hello and welcome to a special Veggie and Vegan edition of the 5-2 podcast. I've been really busy lately working on a new book that combines 2 of my favourite approaches to food, veggie eating and 5-2 or intermittent fasting. So in today's podcast, I'm going to talk to you a bit about why I think these 2 will superpower your diet. I'll be looking at the benefits of both veggie eating and intermittent fasting. I'll be talking a bit about how I developed the recipes in the book, and I'll be offering lots of tips and ideas about increasing the amount and the quality of vegetarian and vegan products in your diet and why that is a good idea. First of all though, let me explain why I think veggie food makes 5-2 and intermittent fasting superpowered. The 2 approaches for me work in perfect harmony. Whether you're a committed veggie, a flexitarian who just wants to eat a bit more in the way of vegetables and produce, or even if you still need a bit more convincing to eat more greens. 5-2, well, I've been doing this for 5 years now, and I believe it is really an incredibly powerful way to boost your health and stay the ideal weight. The vegetarian side goes back even longer for me. I became a vegetarian nearly 3 decades ago in my teens, and I know that vegetarian and vegan food can offer so much variety and so many health-giving properties. So it's going to benefit your body too. If you combine the 2, it means your fast days and your non-fasting days are super powered. So a little bit about me and vegetarianism. Well, I have been a vegetarian, as I say, for 3 decades now. But despite that healthy diet, I always struggled with my weight until 5 years ago when I started intermittent fasting. Thinking about vegetables particularly, I was a vegetable phobic child. I mean, seriously, pretty much the only vegetables I ate were potatoes, especially my granddad's new potatoes, freshly dug from the garden, and sweet corn. And he used to try and grow sweet corn for me too, although that was a bit of a struggle in the northwest of England, but he still managed it occasionally. And those were pretty much the only, well, I was going to say green things, but you will realise that neither of those were green. They were pretty much the only vegetables that I ate. Today, I will eat pretty much every vegetable. I still don't go a bundle on celery, but apart from that, I really love trying out different fruits and vegetables, trying out new tastes and new ways of cooking things. I just think about yesterday, for example, and for tea yesterday, that's a supper, I ate a kind of a pilaf that I'd made. This was on a fast day with spices and with chickpeas and lentils, and on top of that I had some cabbage fresh from the garden that I had stir-fried with a little bit of butter, because I still believe you can have some good fats on a fast day, just use sparingly, all fried up together. And it was so delicious. There's a slight bitterness within the cabbage, but where I would have recoiled from that as a kid, I really enjoy it. It gives that balance, I think, to a dish. However, I have to say that since embarking on a vegetarian diet in my teens, as I say, I haven't always eaten the most healthy diet, because although eating more vegetables is clearly good for you, it's the other things around the edges that aren't necessarily as good for you. So obviously as a vegetarian or as a vegan, there's no limit to the cakes you can eat, to the sweet things. I know plenty of vegans from my teenage years and student years who pretty much ate chips and curry sauce, and that really isn't as health-giving as it could have been. You can eat lots and lots of sources of fat and lots of sources of sugar, even on a very strict vegan diet. So certainly if you're somebody who loves cooking and loves flavour as I do, then there has to be a way of restricting or controlling the urge to eat everything in sight. And for me, intermittent fasting has done that. So it has helped me to learn to savour flavours, to recognise hunger in myself, and when I'm experiencing boredom or thirst or some other emotional need that won't be satisfied by eating. So that's what it's done for me. The result of trying out intermittent fasting is losing 2 stone, that's 31 pounds or so, 14 kilograms in 6 months, and I've kept that weight off, give or take a pound or 2. I do still fast at least once a week for the health benefits, not just for the extra energy and the focus that it gives me. It definitely makes me feel it's easier to concentrate, but also because I think in the long term it's going to reduce my chances of developing type 2 diabetes, cancer and heart disease, and all of those are conditions, of course, that we become more aware of as we get older, but also in my case, particularly cancer and type 2 diabetes are really common in my family, and I want to try to do whatever I can to stave those off for as long as possible. On the veggie side, you don't have to be a committed vegetarian or vegan all the time to enjoy the advantages of increasing your vegetable intake and eating more vegetable or plant-based foods. Whether you've been fasting for a while or if you're just keen to try out fasting, then including more vegetable-based meals on your fast day or even committing to going veggie or vegan on those 1 or 2 days a week can be really beneficial. Fibre-rich vegetables in particular offer a great range of phytonutrients. They're filling and they're low in calories. People do sometimes worry about nutrition on a vegetarian and especially on a vegan diet, and certainly on a vegan diet there are steps that you need to take just to make sure that you are getting enough of the micronutrients that are normally found particularly in animal-based foods, but really there's no cause for concern so long as you pay attention to your diet. And if you're interested in intermittent fasting, you're already halfway there because you're taking an interest in what you eat. Let me talk a bit more, for example, about phytonutrients, which I was just talking about, and antioxidants. Now, you may have heard of antioxidants because they these days tend to be used to promote everything from fruit juice to face cream. What they do is to reduce what's known as oxidative stress, or to put it simply, the damage caused to cells by oxygen and the accompanying free radicals. They were originally hailed as the ultimate anti-aging cure, but clinical trials of antioxidant supplements haven't borne them out. So very high doses of vitamins or minerals which have these antioxidant properties like vitamin C or E in studies either had no effect on disease prevention or in some cases even increased the risk. And that's the issue with supplements, because rather than consuming the micronutrients through food, you might be missing out other vital elements, which is why a whole food diet with lots and lots of vegetables is going to be better. The other word that you might not be familiar with is phytonutrients. Now these are found in plants and they are what give vegetables and fruit their many colours. But more importantly, for us, when we eat them, they help and affect how our bodies work. Now, we believe that there might be up to 20,000 different phytonutrients, and they have very different effects, many of which are only just being studied or discovered. What's interesting, though, is that traditional diets and medicines often do make use of them, suggesting that there is an intrinsic wisdom there about the benefits that they can have that we're only just starting to prove scientifically. So you've got a whole variety. If you look in a supermarket at all the fruit and vegetables that you might have on offer, look at things like red and purple berries. Now these have phytonutrients which have possible benefits for the blood vessels or circulation. The deeper the colour, the more of the phytonutrients they may have. You've got other completely different nutrients found in orange and green produce, so things like pumpkins, sweet potatoes, apricots, kale and broccoli, and these can help and boost your immune system, your vision, your skin and your bone health. Again, there's a colour that you would see in things like egg yolks, mustard, corn, my favourite corn, that contains lutein, which has possible benefits for eye health. Tomatoes, red peppers, watermelons, they are rich in lycopene, which can help with heart disease and reduce the risk of prostate cancer. One that you may have heard quite a lot about is resveratrol, which has is found in red wine, grapes and peanuts. That can help reduce damaging inflammation in the body, which affects the whole body and can cause damaging side effects. And in fact, what's interesting as well about resveratrol is that it is shown to mimic the effects of fasting, which is something we know also has health benefits. So it all links up together. And what you're looking at when you eat the rainbow, which is something many people talk about with diets, so trying to eat the widest possible range of fruit and vegetables, is that naturally through varying your produce that you're eating, you are then getting the whole range of these micro or phytonutrients, which will help the body stave off damage and also cope with range of factors, environmental factors, genetic factors, the things you were born with. We used to think that genes were fixed, that there was nothing you can do, and more we're realising that a healthy diet and other interventions like exercise, not smoking and so on can really affect how those genes behave within the body. And diet, really what the fuel that you're taking in all the time, plays a vital role in that. The other thing that a diet rich in fruit and particularly vegetables does is because of the fibres that they contain, it's really good for your gut. Now we're learning more and more at the moment. The most exciting area of science is that around the microbiome, the many life forms that live on and inside our bodies. And we do know that different types of fibre act as the best possible food for the friendly bacteria that are there helping to produce vitamins, helping to support lots of the body's processes, to keep your immune system healthy. The more different kinds of fruit and vegetables you eat, and particularly those that are fibre rich, will keep your gut bacteria happy. And I'm going to be talking more and more about that in the coming months and years. Let's return though to what I think is the most important thing about a veggie or vegan diet, and that is the potential for it to taste like nothing you've ever tasted before. I really do think that flavour is the main reason for me to sticking to a veggie and vegan diet. It really does taste fantastic. And I've been really lucky in writing my latest book, which is 5-2 Veggie and Vegan, because it's given me the chance to play around with flavours and textures and techniques to bring out the best in those foods. So things like Indian breakfast pancakes, which have been made with chickpea flour, gram flour, which is gluten-free. But that's not the main thing for me. It's just naturally delicious and allows you to make these really fantastic, soft, spicy pancakes, which are great at breakfast time or any time of day. Soups. I've made the most amazing soups. Sweet potato and chilli soup. I've also made things like sausage rolls, but instead of sausage, over-processed sausage in the filling, you've got chestnuts and mushrooms sautéed with herbs and then added to phyllo pastry, sometimes with tomatoes or a little bit of cheese on top. Miso or miso, the fermented soybeans. I've become such a fan during writing this book, and my favourite all-time dish with miso or miso is saucy miso aubergine, which is aubergine boats with the most delicious topping that chars just a little bit around the edges. I haven't neglected old favourites, so things like tikka masala, which I've always been quite envious of people eating when I go to a restaurant, because it's rare to do that with vegetarian ingredients. Well, I've created a vegetarian version using either paneer or using tofu, which knocks those into a cocked hat really. Spaghetti, margarita fruit salad, you name it. I've got such an exciting range of dishes, and lots of those are now available for free on the 5-2 website, so that's the 5-2dietbook.com, and if you look at the food section there, I've got videos and I've got recipes with lots of ideas there for incorporating it. Just to be clear, I really want to stress that I am not a veggie or clean eating extremist. I happen to think that vegetables make the best base for great meals and good health, but I'm not saying that this is something that you have to adopt full time or that you have to give up the treats, or if you love a bacon sandwich, fine. You know, it's not about going out there and preaching for me. It is about saying there are all these great flavours out there, they have benefits for the body, why not make them the focus of some of your meals or a lifestyle if that's what you want to do. I think that the recent focus on clean eating, of cutting out food groups, even when there's no evidence that you have an allergy or an intolerance to them, is really dangerous. It becomes obsessive. And I'm talking about the opposite of that. I'm talking about making the most of the abundance of foods that you can get in nature, and the abundance of amazing ingredients that are now available from all around the world, the spices, the herbs, the sauces, to excite your palate and not shut it down. I shall stop talking about that one. That's a bit of a hobby horse for me. I want to talk practically now about including more veggie food in your fast days and in your non-fasting days if you like. And I've got 3 key ideas here which are going to help you. And number 1 is really observing the seasons. And that's not just about the ingredients that you're using. We do know that seasonal food is usually cheaper in supermarkets, and also especially when there's a glut, for example at the end of summer, might be lots and lots of tomatoes. You can really buy things for virtually next to nothing. I'm not just talking about the vegetables, I'm also talking about the meals. One of the simplest way to approach your fast days is to look at focusing on salads on spring and summer days, and soups, veggie stews and chilies in winter. If you follow that, you're not going to go too far wrong, because you can then go into the supermarket and focus on salads, perhaps with a grain, to make them a little bit more hearty, especially in spring or colder days. And in winter, you can just throw pretty much anything into a vegetable stew or a vegetable soup, and it's going to turn out really, really good. Lots of recipes and guidelines on the website. The second tip is to replace the carbs or reduce them a bit and use more vegetables. Now this could be cauliflower rice, which is really simple. It's just cauliflower zizzed up or grated so that you can then steam it and use it as rice. Or it could be steamed broccoli, steamed green beans, could be roast peppers, grilled mushrooms. Again, aim for that rainbow of colours, not necessarily in one meal, but certainly overall in a day or in a couple of days. So you've got lots of different colours from different kinds of fruit and vegetable. And just use those to fill up the space on the plate because they're going to make you feel energised, whereas sometimes too many carbs are going to make you feel a bit less energetic. They seem to sit heavily, and they can also spike your blood sugar, which means that you might get an energy rush immediately, but then you feel hungry and a bit sluggish again. In contrast, most vegetables I've found just kind of have got that lovely crisp texture, especially if you cook them right, lots and lots of flavour, and you feel good. So replace the carbs altogether, or just reduce them a little bit. Even on a fast day, if my partner is making some dinner with a few oven chips, I will have a couple on the side because I kind of like the flavour and they've got a bit of crunch, but certainly don't make them the centrepiece on your meal, especially on a fast day. The third tip is about experimentation. So I think that one of the ways to keep your palate and your appetite interested is to experiment, and the great thing about veggie and vegan food is that you've got so much scope to do that, not just with unusual fruit and vegetables, and we're very lucky certainly in the UK, and I know from visiting Australia too, that you've got so many different kinds of produce shipped from all over the world, but also increasingly grown locally. You can also experiment then with beans and pulses, so anything from the huge variety of different kinds of lentils or dal that are available from India and surrounding countries, through to tofu, which used to be seen as, you know, the blandest thing you can eat, but there are so many different varieties available now, some ready smoked or ready flavoured, or you can treat them mean. I believe in treating tofu as mean as possible so that you can fry it or marinate it in some of the most spicy and delicious ingredients, all through to exotic vegetables and spices. The one unusual thing I discovered through writing this book was yeast. Yeast is apparently a big food trend. It comes in flakes. It's known as nutritional yeast. And especially in a vegan diet, it has a benefit because it provides B12 vitamins, which are quite difficult to get from non-animal sources. Also, it tastes a little bit like cheese. If you're in the UK and you've ever tried cheesy Wotsits, they're kind of extremely unhealthy, bright orange snack. Imagine a healthier version of the coating that you get on those. Really savoury, really intense, great on savoury dishes. Again, probably wouldn't have discovered it because the name, nutritional yeast, it sounds a bit worthy. It's also nicknamed, if you look on the internet, Nooch, which sounds a bit cooler. It's really tasty. It's definitely worth a try, and it does you good. So those are the 3 easy tips I've got for fitting vegetable food and plant-based food into your fast days. Observe the seasons for both ingredients and for what you're eating. Replace or reduce the carbs and use vegetables in place of the carbs on your plate. And finally, experiment with as many different flavours and vegetables as you can, because we've got it all there available, and each one is going to offer you something different in terms of micro and phytonutrients. Just going to talk about a couple of the recipes that I've put up on the website which really fit the bill there. So the first one is a recipe for pho, spelt Pho, and it's a Vietnamese dish. It's a kind of a soup with a really intensely flavoured broth, and then you add noodles and vegetables and herbs and spices to it. I have a version which substitutes noodles for courgette strips, courgette, and that works so well. It's even lighter than the noodle version. It's under 100 calories, and it's the most flavour you can get in a bowl, plus a lot of the really good green vegetables. The more variety you use in the pot, the better it is, the better it looks. So that is available as a video recipe on the website, the52dietbook.com. The other dish, which is a bit more suitable perhaps for winter and autumn, but actually works really well in hot weather if you like something spicy, is a really simple dal that I've put together with a topping of spiced onions fried in butter or in oil. It might not sound like something you could have on a fast day, and it's a little bit higher in calories than some of the dishes, but it still comes in under 300, so it's good for an evening meal. And that combination of the lovely, comforting orange, bright orange lentils with some spinach leaves kind of just melted into them just at the point where they're starting to wilt a little bit, and those spicy onions with the whole spices. Oh, I'm salivating just thinking about it, and it's early morning. Also got dishes, recipes for side dishes, and even a dessert using the blogger's favourite, the avocado, which I have to say I've been relying on avocado since I first became a vegetarian 3 decades ago. I like them stuffed actually and roasted, and there's a savoury dish in the book for that with a kind of Tex-Mex bean topping. But if you like it as a dessert and you feel like a little dessert on a fast day, you can create a little chocolate pot using cocoa powder, which is also really high in antioxidants, and berries and avocado, which is smooth and rich and delicious. That's just a taste of some of the recipes. That's my new book, 52 Veggie and Vegan, which has got over 80 great recipes, plus loads and loads of extra suggestions for substitutions and other ideas using those basic ingredients. There's also a menu planner and 10 fantastic stories from people who have combined veggie or vegan dishes with fasting and have had brilliant results. And that is a range of people adopting a vegan diet for health and environmental reasons, through to people who eat the occasional vegetarian meal because they love it and find it fits in really well with fasting. Finally, I just want to talk a bit about my philosophy around food, and particularly around writing diet books, because I have a bit of an aversion to so much diet food, especially the pre-packed stuff, but also some of the books which encourage you to mess around with food in strange ways. I remember kind of diet plans, I won't name them, but in the 80s and 90s, before I discovered intermittent fasting, where, you know, it talks about making, I don't know, biscuits out of squashed up Weetabix. Those are kind of rusk crackers. You know, it's not natural and it's not nice. And very much when I am writing recipes, and the veggie book is no exception, I just look at the foods that I love to eat, the spices, the kind of meals, and I just take a little bit more care with some of the more calorific ingredients. or I downscale the portion size of the slightly higher calorie stuff and add more vegetables. There's nothing different about the ingredients that I'm using. It's just a matter of changing the balance a little bit, or perhaps changing the cooking method. I love roast vegetables, roast potatoes. If I'm going to do a fasting day recipe involving roast vegetables, I will use a little bit less oil, and instead of adding cheese or a dressing at the end, I will add some chili flakes or some fresh herbs. I also don't completely ban prepared foods. I think that prepared foods, you just heard me mention oven chips, are absolutely fine. They can be a godsend on certain days. I eat some fresh soups. I have a few veggie burgers in the freezer for when I haven't got around to making any. I think that banning any kind of food or any even approach to food is the wrong thing to do, because it just ends up making you feel guilty. Do what works for you. Be flexible. Enjoy your food. Enjoy cooking. Enjoy being with other people and eating. And there's a whole section in the book just about food to share, because it's one of the greatest pleasures there is. I also give a glimpse in this book of my own non-fasting day foods. And, I'm talking about drinking alcohol on non-fasting days. I'm talking about eating carbs, eating bread, eating out, not to excess, but just enjoying those things. And that's the main benefit of 5-2 for me, is that it allows me to eat a sustainable, healthy diet, but still to enjoy the things I like and not to feel that I have to restrict myself when it comes to eating out, or to punish myself in a way for the fact that I have a healthy appetite. Final point, if you love eating out, and if you ever come to my hometown, which is Brighton in Sussex on the south coast of England, I have put together a list of my top veggie choices. There's 20 listed there. They actually helped inspire a lot of the recipes for me in this book. For example, there's a great street diner around the corner from me that does a whole range of fantastic street food, and I've taken an Indian salad that I really enjoy there and taken that as the basis, but changed lots of things about it to make it a bit more healthy for a fasting day, but still just as delicious. I've also eaten some great food at the Yakitori restaurant, which is over in Hove, a bit up the road from me. It's a Japanese grill with Korean food as well. Now, you wouldn't have thought that's going to have anything veggie friendly, but actually the way they treat vegetables there, to die for. So I've developed some miso dishes, and also some cauliflower dishes there with a hot, sweet, spicy sauce inspired by my trip there. If you're interested in reading about some of those places, absolutely must-sees if you ever come down to Brighton or travel in England, go to my other website, which is kate-harrison.com, and you'll find my Veggie Brighton guide there as well. That's where I talk about other things and even post the odd picture of more indulgent food. So if you're interested in that side of things, then do visit kate-harrison.com. But for the main recipes and more information about my 5-2 Veggie and Vegan book, for lots more podcasts and lots more information about the 5-2 way of life, go to the website, the 5-2 dietbook.com, and everything on there is free apart from the clicks out to buy my books. Thank you so much for listening today. If you do like the podcast, please share it with your friends and rate the podcast on iTunes, which helps more people see it and also shows me that you'd like the podcast a little bit more often, because I know that I can be a little bit lazy when I'm doing other things in recording the podcasts. Meanwhile, why don't you make your next meal a veggie dinner? Eating your greens can be delicious. For many more free tips, case studies, recipes and lots of information, visit the 5-2 dietbook.com. Follow me on Twitter at the52diet, or download free samples of the books online at Amazon. Thanks for listening.